Okay, let's unpack this. The world is getting incredibly connected, right?
It really is.
And today we're doing a deep dive into the Internet of Things, IoT. This is all based on some really fascinating material you shared with us.
Yeah, and the sources you sent, they jump right in. They define IoT pretty clearly as, well, it's all about connections. Just this huge, increasing number of everyday objects, devices, things being given sensors, processors, transmitters.
Right. And the key thing, the really crucial part of the material stresses isn't just that they have this stuff built in. It's that they don't just sit there alone. The core idea is they communicate, they interact with each other.
Exactly. That interaction, that device-to-device conversation, that's what starts building the bigger picture. That's what feeds into big data.
And the readings bring up smart devices as the main actors here.
Right. These interconnected gadgets that can actually operate, well, somewhat autonomously. They're not just collecting data.
They're controlling things, too, in the physical world.
Precisely.
So our mission for this deep dive, kind of following the thread of the material you sent, is to look beyond, the technology itself or just the sheer amount of data.
Yeah, beyond the buzzwords.
We want to understand how IoT is really relevant, strategically, operationally, how it's actually impacting different business sectors.
And, why does this matter to you listening in?
Good question.
Well, because these devices, these applications, they're already all around us, often in ways you might not even notice.
Absolutely. So understanding them as well, it's pretty key to navigating today and what's coming next.
So we're going to pull out the main ideas, the maybe surprising details, give you the context you need.
Yep. Quick and clear. So let's start with where we actually see these things popping up. The material makes it clear they're pretty much everywhere already.
Oh, yeah. You're likely bumping into them daily. Think about your home, for instance. The readings mention devices that can automatically start your coffee machine.
Nice. Or locking your doors automatically when you head out.
Or even firing up your favorite music right when you arrive home. Those little conveniences, that's IoT at work.
And it's definitely not just the house. When you're driving, say.
Right. All those sensors, cameras, trackers out there, they're grabbing real-time traffic data.
Which then feeds into those alerts you get, traffic jams ahead, maybe suggesting a different route based on what's happening right now.
Even the office isn't immune. The material talks about smart desks.
Yeah, telling you when to stand up.
Exactly. Monitoring how long you sat and giving you a nudge.
So you can see how these devices are kind of embedded, right? Constantly gathering little bits of data, taking small actions all around us.
But then the readings you shared pivot. They move to the bigger picture, the strategic stuff, the operational uses, and this is where it gets really interesting.
Totally agree. The material breaks these uses down into a few key areas. It shows just how versatile this tech can be.
So one big area is using IoT to help with specific tasks, sometimes really complex ones. Makes processes much more targeted, much more precise.
Like that oil and gas example they gave. Using seismic image models, but layering IoT data on top for precision exploration.
Yeah, pinpointing exactly where to drill. That's a huge step up from older methods.
Or the food industry one. That was fascinating. Using sensor data from the whole journey of the food.
Right, from harvesting, holding, processing, distribution, all that data together.
To predict the shelf life of individual products, not just the batch, but the specific item.
Think about managing things that go off quickly. Knowing the exact conditions that specific apple or yogurt experienced, incredible precision for logistics, cutting down waste.
Okay, another key theme in the readings, efficiency. Generating efficiencies.
Yeah, like information from smart devices, preventing bottlenecks in manufacturing before they even happen.
And reducing resource use. That's a big one. The material points to smart devices for better energy management in big buildings.
Or agriculture. That's a great example.
Right. Using sensors in the soil to monitor moisture, nutrients.
Allowing farmers to optimize how much water and fertilizer they use. That's direct cost saving, plus a potentially massive environmental benefit.
Monitoring for potential problems is another big use case mentioned.
Definitely. Getting remote warnings, like security alerts if a window's open when it shouldn't be.
And enhancing prevention. The whole idea of predictive maintenance is highlighted.
Yeah, that's a classic IoT application now.
Yeah.
Instead of fixing things on a schedule or when they break.
You use data about how the equipment is actually doing to predict when it really needs maintenance.
And what's interesting, the readings point out, it's not just about being proactive. It's about balancing the cost against preventing performance loss before it bites you. Getting that balance right is crucial.
Good point. And finally, the material touches on how IoT can underpin strategic development itself.
The automotive industry example was pretty compelling there.
Yeah, using 3D printers to shape pressing tools, printing directly onto steel powder or granulate.
Right. And that flexibility lets them create very tailored car designs much faster, directly linking the tech to, say, specific market demands or what customers are asking for.
So it connects the technology straight to strategic product decisions. Customization.
Exactly. So when you pull all these uses together, you see IoT moving way beyond just simple data gathering.
Yeah, it's driving precision, savings, prediction, even strategic flexibility in how things are designed and made.
To make it even more concrete, the readings give a couple of specific sector examples too.
Right, like the medical sector.
Which is seeing, huge growth in IoT. Things like home devices providing alerts for emergencies. Detecting a fall, for example, for an elderly person living alone.
And enabling that continuous remote monitoring idea, blood pressure, heart rate, how someone's responding to treatment.
All without them needing to be constantly in a hospital or clinic. That's a big shift.
Then there's the transport sector again, beyond those immediate traffic warnings we already mentioned.
Right. The material shows how that data from cameras, sensors, trackers, it's being used for longer-term goals too.
Like analyzing traffic flows over months or years to see which routes are busiest.
And that data then informs strategic decisions, maybe simplifying the infrastructure on those key routes to improve traffic flow permanently, moving from just reacting to actively planning.
Okay, so that's the potential. A lot of it is current reality too. Huge capability.
But, and it's a big but, the material you shared is very, very clear that this comes with significant challenges, big hurdles.
And security is right there at the top of the list, isn't it?
Absolutely. A major point raised is that the speed of application development, all the cool new IoT things, that hasn't really been matched by sufficient security development.
That gap sounds worrying.
It is. And it's not just, a theoretical risk. The readings point out that for certain things, critical infrastructure, medical devices, the consequences of hacking could actually be life-threatening.
Wow. Okay. That ramps up the stakes considerably.
It really does. And alongside security, there's privacy and data protection. Also enormous concerns.
Well, yeah. More devices collecting more data. It just inherently means knowing more about individuals.
And the more data you have, the better you could potentially predict someone's behavior. The material flags a real fear here. People feeling constantly watched.
Or worse, fearing that the insights drawn from their data might be used to somehow control their behavior subtly or maybe not so subtly.
And then there's the whole regulatory mess, trying to comply with data protection rules. It's incredibly complex.
Because the rules are still developing, right? And they're different everywhere.
Exactly. Different between countries. It's a moving target for any business operating internationally.
On top of security and privacy, there are also just plain technical hurdles.
Big ones.
Yeah.
Platform fragmentation is mentioned often. You've got devices using all sorts of different hardware, different software.
Making them talk to each other reliably, that's tough.
Yeah. And think about obsolescence. One older device in a network becoming outdated or failing. It could potentially disrupt the whole system it's part of.
Plus, just the sheer cost of storing and processing all that data, it's not trivial.
No, it means large storage and processing costs.
Yeah.
And the material also mentions practical problems. Just connecting devices reliably, gathering good data consistently.
And then actually understanding it, turning that flood of raw data into something useful.
Right. That takes specialized skills. You need expert staff who know what they're doing with data analytics.
And one last point, the readings brought up implementation barriers. Why do so many IoT projects seem to stall? They don't get past the pilot stage.
Yeah, that's a common frustration. Often it seems the focus gets stuck on the cool technology itself.
Instead of building a really convincing business case right from the start, why are we really doing this? What's the value?
And the perceived time horizons can be an issue too. Seeing a return on investment might feel too far off for some businesses.
And sometimes it's just limitations in what companies already have. Existing hardware might not be up to scratch, or their internal information systems infrastructure just isn't ready.
And that links to the legacy systems challenge. It's huge.
Ripping out old equipment that still works, that's a hard sell.
Especially when integrating the new IoT stuff with the old systems is often really difficult and expensive.
So yeah, these points really drive home that making IoT work isn't just about buying some new sensors. It's a major strategic, technical, and organizational shift.
Absolutely.
Okay, so looking ahead then. Where does the material suggest this is all going, the future of IoT?
Well, the prediction is pretty clear. Continued growth. Increasing scope of applications across basically all sectors. Commercial, infrastructure, manufacturing, industrial, you name it.
We're even seeing it baked into planning for smart cities now, right?
Right. It's becoming foundational. But the tricky part for businesses, according to the sources, is predicting the pace.
Will it be a sort of slow, gradual creep into how things are done?
Or could it be a sudden, quick transformation? That uncertainty makes deciding when and how much to invest really difficult.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've definitely seen the huge potential and a lot of the current reality of the Internet of Things.
Yeah, these interconnected devices are being used for everything from, making your morning coffee
to complex industrial efficiency gains, predictive maintenance, even strategic product design across sectors like medicine, transport, agriculture.
But as the material you shared makes incredibly clear, it's not straightforward. It comes with these significant, really complex hurdles.
Security, privacy, technical integration challenges, the practical difficulties of actually implementing it effectively.
Yeah. So what does it all mean? I think the readings paint this picture of a technology with immense power, already changing our world.
But also one that's loaded with issues that need really careful thought, careful navigation. It's not just a tech shift. It's got deep operational, strategic, and maybe societal implications too.
Which leads to a final thought, maybe. Given this increasing ability through these devices to collect so much data about us, about individuals, and even predict behavior, how do we make sure that the benefits, the undeniable benefits of this super connected world actually empower us? How do we avoid it leading to unforeseen kinds of control or, chipping away at personal autonomy?
That's a heavy question. Definitely something to think about. What stands out most to you from this deep dive?